Hello and welcome to Trojan Talk. I'm your host, Aaron Taylor. My guest today is Micah Grimes, an alumnus of the Hall School of Journalism and TrojanVision. Welcome back. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's really great to see everything.
And you're here because you were the guest speaker at this year's Journalism Symposium. An opportunity to bring you back here. But the main thing is you were here to talk about where you are now as the director of social media at NBC News in New York. And so obviously it's a long way from here. Tell us a little about what you talked about here and what brought you back here. So.
I talked about how this is an exciting time for journalism, which you don't always necessarily hear about right now. Obviously we face our challenges. We face some criticisms that are warranted. We're having to adjust, but the level of journalism, the amount of journalism that is taking place these days is truly amazing. And again, you don't always hear about that, but if you really look around and you see some of these local outlets, some of the national outlets, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the LA Times are really reinventing themselves. We're reinventing ourselves at NBC News. We're a storied television station, but we have bosses and executives there who are really supporting what we're doing in the digital environment. We're hiring, we're growing, we're sending people out to do some amazing journalism. That's happening across the network. So trying time, but really exciting time, and that's kind of what I tried to project to the students here. 8, 9 years ago I was here, which in my mind, of course, seems like it was just a few, not long ago. But I remember sitting in those and thinking, I do kind of want to be one of those people who come back one day, and through a lot of hard work and commitment, I did it, and so can you, because you really can. It's how much work and how committed are you to get there, and you can do it.
And I was saying one of the things that I brag on you about, because you were a student here at TrojanVision, but the fact that you were able to make that leap just in a relatively short amount of time from working at a college station to the national level. Yeah. So, and I know that's something that students were eager to hear about, but it's something that I know I'm proud of, but I know it's something that you kind of hang your hat on, because it kind of is a young man's game, that social media out there.
Yeah, so, it can very much be, but back here at Troy University is all this stuff around us. The students who get to be a part of this, students behind the camera, students in the production booth, students up there on the set, students in there writing. I got to do all of that except for directing, interestingly. Well, I don't know why, but I never did that. But I got to do all of that other stuff, and it puts you in the pressure environment, especially going on air or with directing. You're controlling all of this. You have pressure that you have to perform on. You can't replace that in a theory class. You can't replace that in many ways. To actually be in a real live studio under that pressure-packed environment was invaluable for me, when I could just walk into a newsroom basically not ready to go, but polished as a student to be able to do stuff and really contribute. And I think in many ways that's what moved me along, was I could get stuff done and became an asset. And with social media, I was an expert simply because I grew up in it, and everybody else is, what is social media? And I could tell you, this is social media, therefore I'm an expert, and then just kind of get better at it and understand it and strategy and
you talk to the students a lot about what social media means nowadays, and it's become almost an important, vital part of our lives, but especially in the media and telling the stories of the newscast. So
stories often start on social media now, and to an extent, stories start in local communities. Every story is local in some sense. They start, and then now, instead of you hearing about it from the police department or from the city government or some source you have, you hear about it from some person who's just on the street tweeting about it or Facebooking about it. We've got programs called Data Miner that mines data for tweets, and so they identify the word school shooting or lockdown or plane crash, and we get an alert about it, and then we decide, is this a national story? Is this a story for our audience? And often it is. So in many ways, it's moving very, very fast. We have to build the structures to slow it down a little bit, because in many ways it's too fast for humanity. When you launch out too fast, obviously you didn't have the time to really analyze what's going on, and that can be a catch-22, because if you're in an environment where you want to know, or you know about something, you're seeing stuff on social media, it's constant of, hey, why aren't you reporting this, NBC News, or why aren't you reporting this, CNN or MSNBC, why aren't you reporting this? And oftentimes it's, we knew about it, and we knew about it before you, but we're not going to report it until we can give you some solid information. Yeah. That said, there are times when we'll acknowledge it, like we see this, we're not reporting until we really have confirmed information. And it's a struggle because you want to be there for people and you realize that this information is flying around you. So I think the best strategy there is to acknowledge it. And you'll see this especially in breaking news situations where they say, you know, this is what we know, this is what we don't know. They're telling you what they don't know, but what we're hearing, because we know you're hearing about it, and we're telling you as a trustworthy source that we're looking into it, but we just don't know yet if it's accurate.
And a lot to talk about. I know the students that listened to you today as a part of this symposium, that when you were on campus, enjoyed hearing the lessons, and I enjoy having you back in the TrojanVision studios. And I want to thank you for joining here today.
Great, it was great to be back. Enjoyed talking with you.
All right, thank you, Micah, and thank you for joining us on today's edition of Trojan Talk.